African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Happy Friday. Our regular host, the creator of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, Gina Towns, executive producer. On Fat Meat Fridays, we sum up our week from Monday through Friday. We're here on KBLA, 12 to 2 p.m. PST, 2 to 4 p.m. CST, and 3 to 5 EST. But if you download the app, you're listening to us as far away as Johannesburg, South Africa, London, England, all over the world. We get calls. We get comments on our Facebook pages about our show. Particularly honored to be on Fat Meat Fridays with Gina Towns. Gina, we had one hell of a week on the show.
Yes, we did.
I was particularly impressed with, Monday through Friday, every show was great, but Aza Karam and P.L. De Silva yesterday laid a foundation for USAID, as well as the soft diplomacy that has accompanied democracy in the developing world. And she simply argues, to summarize it, it didn't work. That the aid programs, while maybe feeding the hungry or even vaccinating those who are unvaccinated, it still benefited an entrenched elite within the countries who did not believe in democracy. And so Donald Trump's removal of these soft power programs for our allies across the country, which many of us have argued have reduced the number of infant mortalities as well as the number of people who are dying around the world from starvation. She argues that the democracy project that usually accompanies USAID, including a large private sector here in the United States, did not influence from the bottom up the kind of activity that created the American Revolution here in the United States, where our rights, including Bill of Rights, our constitutional rights, including the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, were earned rights. And when you earn the rights through your own country's struggle, you tend to hold on to the Constitution. You hold on to rights that were hard fought because they're part of an education process that become enshrined, a very difficult process, by the way, in the Constitution of the United States. In other words, they are not only written on the soul of the Americans who fought for those rights, they are also written in the document itself, a difficult document to change. Many Americans assume that they can put democracy as we understand it on a silver platter and deliver it to the developing world. And oftentimes, the developing world, even the post-colonial developing world, it isn't following the process by which their constitutions naturally evolve in their societies to protect the rights of, for example, women, minorities, and others. She wrote a fascinating paper on it. We'll talk about that a little bit in the first hour, but I'd like to hear some of your thoughts, Gina.
Well, first of all, that op-ed really needs to be an op-ed that gets picked up. It appeared in Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera.
And the hard truth is contained in it, and it is a hard truth that a lot of newspapers won't want to pick up because it's very hard. What she did was provide a mirror for us to look at as Americans, and the idea of democracy is one thing, and the practice of democracy is another. And I think that is what was so telling. What she covered in that piece, it really was a moment for pause because, as I saw it, that is the arrogance that a lot of people, a lot of groups around the world see and accuse the United States of being guilty of. To be able to say one thing on paper, to be able to tout that in other countries, but then at home to practice something else, and even in those other countries to practice something less than transparency, honor, and dignity. So, I know throughout the day we will go back and forth in covering this, but we've spent a lot of time this week talking about what's wrong with America and the place that we find ourselves in right now. But I know that you and I have had lots of conversation, and one of the things that I pursued was the ideals that America was founded on. So when we come forward, I'd like to look at that a little further.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Gina Towns on Fat Meat Fridays, right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates Malik Books on celebrating 35 years in business.
It's a celebration.
Malik Books proudly houses one of the largest African American and diverse children's books in the nation. This is the perfect time to pick up holiday reads, meaningful gifts, and to support literacy in our community. For 35 years, Malik Books has stood strong in the Black Book Revolution, uplifting stories that heal, inspire, and transform. One reader at a time. Change your thoughts, change your life. Books are the gift that keeps giving. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, congratulations to Malik Books on 35 years of culture, pride, and community.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates our own Keith Underwood, host host of the weekend entertainment show Black in the Green Room, on his recent honor at the annual National Arts and Entertainment Journalism Awards. Keith received a first place award presented by the Los Angeles Press Club for his entertainment reporting, and we couldn't be prouder. Congratulations, Keith, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33, and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
If you've been diagnosed with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, this is what it sounds like to be 1,000,000 miles away. Imagine being 1,000,000 miles away. Tremfya Guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy. With Tremfya, clearer skin is possible. In clinical trials, at least 70% of patients saw at least 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks. Results may vary. Tremfya is also indicated for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Call 1-800-526-7736 or visit tremfya.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk.
Come on and talk with me.
1580.
Come on and listen to
We have a
me.
conversation in the first hour about
Talk 1580. Download the app.
the word is derived from the Greek terms meaning demos, people, and kratos, rule. That's democracy, where the people rule. Democracy is a system of government where the right to govern lies with the people, who exercise this power either directly or through freely elected representatives. Now, there are a few core principles to democracy, including popular sovereignty, the rule of law, majority rule and minority rights, human rights, free and fair elections are among the core principles. But I want to make this pivot before I go through these definitions. This is American democracy, as we have defined it since the inception of the country, growing out of the principles of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. The Declaration of Independence is not our nation's governing document. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish a constitution on September 17th, 1787. On July 4th, 1786, Jefferson articulates a principle, albeit incomplete. All men are created equal, but since men can't create a nation on their own, all men, yes, and women, Elizabeth Cady Stanton would add, are created equal. That's a principle, but it's not the governing document of the United States. We don't live under the Declaration of Independence. We're inspired by the Declaration of Independence, but we live under the Constitution, quite a different document, often both documents finding themselves in conflict, but the governing principles of the Declaration of Independence, freedom, the idea of equality, matter to our interpretation of the Constitution, but they are not the only interpretations of the Constitution. Let's look at these 5 core principles of the democracy. Popular sovereignty, the principle that the government's legitimacy comes from the consent of the governed. Rule of law, every citizen and institution is accountable to the same laws, which were applied equally and fairly. Majority rule and minority rights. While decisions are made by majority vote, democracies must protect the fundamental rights of individuals and minority groups from the tyranny of the majority. Human rights. Protection of essential freedoms, including speech, assembly, and religion, and free and fair elections. Regular, competitive, and inclusive elections where citizens choose their own leaders. This is the process of the evolution of the term democracy in the United States. But when Dr. Karam was on our program this past Thursday, she's written a piece for Al Jazeera. It has yet to be published in the English language, where she challenges the fundamental assumptions of the way in which American democracy has been presented to the third world, to the developing world, often delivered to the third world through its soft aid packages, including USAID, food, vaccinations, and what might be called American goodwill. We expect these developing countries, who have not fought, won, in some cases, revolutionary wars. Number two, did not establish from those struggles a three-tier system of accountability, both a judiciary, executive who is elected, as well as a House of Representatives or Parliament or whatever form representative government may take place in those countries. They did not adopt their constitution and insist upon a Bill of Individual Rights to protect them from the tyranny of those who might be in charge. They did not engage in a process to amend their constitution to eliminate various forms of chattel, slavery, peonage, servitude, or unfreedom. They may or may not have established a 14th Amendment, equal protection of the laws and citizenship rights. They may not have agreed that men in their society, had they been excluded at the inception of the founding of their countries, more specifically, Black men, to add a 15th Amendment to the Constitution. And adding that amendment, to my point, led to another struggle, the women's suffrage movement, because many suffragettes supported the idea of Blacks having the right to vote in the 15th Amendment. But when women were excluded, it would lead to quite a different struggle in our own nation that would culminate in the 19th Amendment of the Constitution, where women have enjoyed essentially that freedom since the passage of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. In other words, in America, we earned our rights. And our rights are not only written in the Constitution of the United States, they are rights that are written on the hearts of the American people because we fought for them, not just in the Revolutionary War, but in various struggles throughout our own history to ensure that we were living up to the principles, again, of the Declaration of Independence, but not necessarily to the founding governing document of the nation itself. And so when you hand American democracy, as we understand it today, to developing countries where they did not earn the rights, but under the kind of scheme where you offer aid and offer this if you just elect your leaders, and over and over again in those countries, they keep electing the same elite that was empowered either during the colonial period, the post-colonial period, the neo-colonial period. They're just the enfranchised elite within the countries that no matter what the political winds are in the country, they're always in charge. They're always the go-to people. They're always the beneficiary of the overwhelming largest, because democracy in those countries did not start from the bottom up. They came from the top down. I don't think I can say it any better than that. Gina, your thoughts on some clips that you want to share with us on how our democracy was troubled at its beginning.
Well, first of all, from our discussion yesterday, from what you just laid out, I did a little bit of research. And on this day in history, I found some very significant occurrences. One, Benjamin Franklin published the Farmer's Almanac, which was a Poor Richard's Almanac, rather, which was a very big deal in 1732. George Washington led the troops into their winter time at Valley Forge. But significantly I found Thomas Paine, and most people, if they know Thomas Paine or any of his writings, are more familiar with Common Sense. But I found The American Crisis and I said, that's where we are right now. And so the whole messaging behind today's discussion, I wanted us to be able to take a look at how cyclical, though it is linear, our history is linear, but man cycles itself. There's really nothing new about man, his instincts, his charge, if you will, to satisfy self. But one of the most interesting things about what Paine said in The American Crisis on December 19th, 1776, and this not long after freedom was won in the American Revolution, the American Crisis, Paine publishes an essay, and it is a shot in the arm to the Patriots during a particularly difficult stretch of the American Revolution. And in it, he wrote, "These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from service to his country. But he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph." And it kind of really echoed back to all that you just said, what we talked about on and off throughout the week about the tyranny, about the evil that exists in front of us, the apple that we tend to want to take a bite of, our neglect to really live up to some of what we espouse in our Constitution, in our Declaration, in the fight for democracy, and even the fight for freedom in the American Revolution, but then our fight for freedom in the Civil Rights Movement. It's very interesting to see us here once again at this struggle, not living up to our ideals as espoused. And I have some, if they are here.
I found that thing that you mentioned about Thomas Paine, where he says that the harder the conflict, the greater the triumph. That's not just a military victory. That's what you've been through, what the people have been through, what an individual has been through. The harder the conflict, no testimony. What is written on our hearts as a result of the conflict, from that triumph emerges, well, what Max Cleland, who I had the privilege of serving with when he was in the United States Senate, a Vietnam veteran, said, it resulted in strength in broken places. Where you once were not strong, you are now strong where the bone broke, or where the tension occurred, or where the conflict occurred. Even Ernest Hemingway says that when man is presented with adversity, they find themselves stronger in the adverse places than they were before they were presented. Gina?
What's interesting is that because we are at a time, and different people, and especially Black people, our community can very easily, we can, flick off the Declaration of Independence and all that the nation was founded upon because slavery existed. But I think it's very important when you think about history, and if you were in a period where you fought for something, and let's take Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, for example, right here. If history were to portray you as in a group of people who agreed with one thing or another, but that was not your position, yet you were noted in history, you might feel some sort of way. And everybody wants to be recognized for what their beliefs were if you find your place in history. The interesting thing about Thomas Paine is that he did not own slaves. Benjamin Franklin came to a point, and we have a clip on that that we will see when we come forward. And the Adamses did not own slaves. So you find here a number of people who are significant in the founding of the country, in the documents to the country, who had a different take on humanity, on God's hand in creating not only humanity, the world, but in this nation. So here, I find it very interesting that some of the founders had a preoccupation with the Lord's Prayer. And in it is contained the phrase, on earth as it is in heaven. And if you think about the fact that Jesus, while he was on earth, was very concerned with the thirst of people, the hunger of people, clothing people, and visiting people in prison. And you then latch that on to, well, these guys were preoccupied with it, what happened during that time. And so if you see our Congress in the debate that it's in and the stalemates that it finds it in, then so why do we think it was any less at that point in time?
My read on the architects and the various versions of the world prayer that Benjamin Franklin wrote, a very different version of the Lord's Prayer in English from Thomas Jefferson in his extracts from the Greek to the Latin to the French to the English language, a very different interpretation of the Lord's Prayer from Charles Thompson, who was Secretary of the Convention. And when you see the Lord's Prayer, at least for me, while we talk about on earth as it is in heaven in the present interpretations of the Bible, on earth is surface level. Jefferson and I think Franklin's interpretation, maybe Thompson's interpretation, it's been a minute since I studied it, they changed the word and they believe the correct interpretation is in the earth, not on earth as it is in heaven, surface, but in the earth, like down by the roots, like deeper than that. And they didn't see Jesus of Nazareth and this particular prayer as being a surface level proposition, that they wanted it to be understood as a core precept, that to be deeper in the conversation of what constitutes forgiveness, mercy, love, the precepts of the ministry of Jesus of Nazareth, the least of these, and caring for the sick, caring for those who cannot care for themselves. It was a deeper understanding, and on earth could not possibly have been the proper interpretation as it transitioned from the oral tradition to the Greek, to the Latin, to the French, and ultimately the English language. And so Jefferson removed all of the miracles from this proposition to get to the bottom line of this deep theological insight. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Fat Meat Friday with Gina Towns, KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward in just a moment.
The biggest names, the best conversations. You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says there's still a chance for compromise on Chicago's 2026 budget, but most alders say it's too late and are moving ahead with their own plan.
We would like to see the homework they've done to come up with these numbers and projections today, given that we have a ticking clock and a deadline to meet.
The council met again Thursday with no resolution. Court filings show federal prosecutors unsuccessfully trying to add a third felony charge against Black New York Attorney General Letitia James. The effort failed to secure a new indictment, marking the second time prosecutors have fallen short after her earlier case was dismissed. And Tyra Banks is being sued for $2.8 million over an alleged lease breach tied to a planned ice cream shop in Washington, D.C. Her company says it backed out after not getting full access to the space and has filed a motion to dismiss. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The college football playoffs kick off this weekend. 4 teams have first-round byes. Tappan Smiley's Indiana Hoosiers, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas Tech. UCLA fans may find out on Saturday when new football coach Bob Chesney reports for work. Chesney, hired by UCLA on December 6th, was permitted to coach James Madison in their first-round playoff game Saturday at Oregon. When James Madison's season is over, Chesney will be on the clock at UCLA. Oregon is a 20-point favorite over James Madison. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford has 40 touchdown passes this season, one shy of his single-season career high. He's had 41 twice in his 16-year career. As good a season as Stafford is having, he's a long way from the NFL record. Peyton Manning holds the NFL record with 55 touchdown passes in 2013 when he was with Denver. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
In a city as big as LA, healthcare shouldn't feel far away. That's why Cedars-Sinai is breaking down barriers and bringing resources like free screenings, vaccinations, and wellness programs into local communities. From Leimert Park to Lincoln Heights and everywhere in between, Cedars-Sinai is showing up, partnering with over 200 local organizations to improve access to healthcare resources. Because care doesn't just happen inside a hospital. It happens in neighborhoods and places around the city where we live, work, and grow. Cedars-Sinai, here for LA.
One year ago, flames tore through Altadena and Eaton Canyon, changing lives forever. From the ashes, can a beloved community rise stronger? Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, host of First Things First, weekday mornings, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580. And I'm inviting you to join us on Wednesday, January 7th, as we broadcast live from Perry's Joint on the one-year anniversary of this horrific and devastating fire. We're remembering those we lost, celebrating the heroes and sheroes who answered the call, and honoring the resilience of neighbors who are determined to rebuild together.
I've been a strong Black woman a long time, and I can't just break down now.
Hear the stories of survival, the voices of recovery, the spirit of community that the fire couldn't destroy, and yes, the angst of those who still do not know where they go from here.
Yeah, where am I gonna go?
At KBLA Talk 1580, we don't just cover the story, we're part of this community, and we've done our level best to hold those responsible for this fire accountable. And 1 year later, we're still standing together.
It is my hopes that Black people will rebuild those homes.
So join us live at Perry's Joint, 2051 Lincoln Avenue in Pasadena, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Wednesday, January 7th, as we commemorate the 1 year anniversary of the Altadena Eaton Canyon fire. Because some stories demand to be remembered.
This too shall pass.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me.
Welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk.
Come on and listen to me.
Friday with Gina Towns, our executive director and creator of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Welcome forward to the show, Gina.
Thank you, Jesse. How are you on this Friday? It's cold. It's cold.
Freezing here in Chicago. I mean, like unbelievably cold.
It's 17, feels like -5.
It's at least that.
That's okay. We're still keeping stride.
Gina, your thoughts, and I think you have a clip for us.
I do have a clip, and just if you're just tuning in or joining us on Facebook or YouTube, we are discussing where we are as an American people. We've taken a lot of time over the week to talk about where we are. Taking a lot of time to talk about the difference in leadership that we find ourselves in this place in history in which we find ourselves. But if we think about it, this is not necessarily new, and it really does go past the civil rights movement to the founding of the country. But is there anything salvageable? Is there anything that we can lay our hat on? Because unless we are united in our fight, house divided will fall. You may have heard that somewhere. We have a clip, and if we can go to that clip right now, we'll talk about Thomas Paine.
Right behind me here at 59 Grove Street once stood the home of Marguerite de Bonneville, and she was dear friends with this man right here, Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine was a writer, a journalist, a pamphleteer, a war correspondent. He traveled alongside George Washington in the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War, and he wrote about what he saw. It was the winter of 1776. Washington and his army are in New Jersey making their way to McConkey's Ferry to cross the Delaware. The soldiers are shoeless, shirtless, coatless. They have literally resorted to eating their horses. Soldiers have a 1-year enlistment. That's it. That enlistment is up at Christmas time. Nobody wants to be on the losing side of a war. I have my warm bed at home and my beautiful wife. Soldiers were threatening not to re-enlist. That is when Thomas Paine penned one of his most famous pamphlets, The Crisis. And it started like this. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier, the sunshine patriot, and this crisis will shrink from the service of their country. But those that stand by us now deserve the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, but we have this consolation that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. Now, Washington reads this and he says, I don't care how tired and cold they are, line up the Continental Army. I want the crisis read in its full entirety. The soldiers line up, the crisis is read, tears stream down the faces of those soldiers, and they enlist to fight another year. They would also, from that point on, adopt the motto, victory or death, and this would inspire them to cross the Delaware and win the Battle of Trenton. This was a critical moment. Some fought with the sword, others fought with the quill. Just as valid. Who knows what would have happened if not for Thomas Paine? Thomas Paine would die on this site in the home of his dear friend Marguerite de Bonneville in 1809, and this plaque here commemorates that. Check out some of Thomas Paine's most famous quotes inscribed here. The world is my country. All of mankind are my brethren, and to do good is my religion. Boy, we could sure use a few good men like Thomas Paine today.
Gina, that was very moving.
How about that?
That was very moving. And I think that one of the critical elements of the American crisis, if I remember, was that Thomas Paine felt some kind of way about the peculiar institution of slavery.
Oh, absolutely. He was not a fan of it, and he questioned, how can we say that we believe one thing as we're founding this country and doing another? But I think, if we are not critical of those who come before us, we all kind of live that way sometimes. We want to be a certain way. We want to have ideals that we think we live up to, and then we fall short of it. And so I am pushing this today because I want to know, and I want us to consider, not only as individuals, but I want us to consider as community, as families, if we can muster up enough, like Thomas Paine talked about, in order to go this battle, this long haul, this winter that we find ourselves in. And of course, on this day in history, as I mentioned, if you weren't with us, this is the day that Washington did go to Valley Forge and endure a long winter. This is the day that Benjamin Franklin published Poor Richard's Almanac. So there's a lot to our history, and I don't believe, and I know that our guests in the next hour will join me, God does not make mistakes. We are in the exact time and exact place, and we have to make a decision.
I want to just add, I think about the Revolutionary War, and I wasn't there, and no one alive was. But when I think about wars today, everybody fights, every single soldier, for what they believe. We might try a single narrative that our men and women are fighting for what that narrative that comes from the news media or even our historians' interpretation of what the conflict was about. But at a real level, when one puts it all on the line for liberty, each of us are fighting for something different. If I went to war today, I'd fight for this nation because I believe it is a nation and an experiment that is going somewhere. Because from 1619 to the present, there is this struggle against the peculiar institution of slavery. And it is the only nation in the history of the world where that struggle can take place. Now, I might be in a foxhole with one of my brothers from downstate Illinois, or I might be in a foxhole with somebody from Kentucky, and I'm almost certain that they're not fighting for the liberties that I enjoy and that live within my being from 1619 to 2025, 2026. They have their own reasons. Some of them might be fighting for family. Some of them might genuinely believe that the security and the freedom of their children is at stake. Women fighting alongside of me have to be fighting, in my imagination, for a number of reasons, but among those individual reasons are the idea that they have freedoms in this country that they don't have in Afghanistan or Iran or other parts of the world. America is worth fighting for, but no two soldiers are fighting for the exact same reason. No two Americans, when they are fighting for the Bill of Rights or fighting for civil rights or fighting for Americans with disabilities, no two Americans are fighting for the exact same thing. But the idea that we can coalesce around the idea that we can fight for something that is right is worth the fight. But to suggest that my narrative is the reason you're fighting or the reason that I'm willing to put my life on the line is not the same as your narrative for why you are fighting. And then I imagine in World War I and World War II and other conflicts where African Americans could don on the uniform after the American Civil War, the United States colored troops. Each of us were fighting, even though when we finished fighting, there were rights we were not guaranteed here at home as Americans. No two people, Gina, are fighting for the same reason. Thomas Paine is arguing against slavery, in part in the American crisis, but George Washington, when he's crossing the Delaware as a slaveholder, on that point, he doesn't give a damn what Thomas Paine thinks. He's keeping his property now, but he's fighting for a different reason. It culminates in a beautiful and amazing story that we call America, but it's not necessarily the basis of what the fight was all about.
Well, now you have really brought up some interesting points for all of us to consider, and I agree, but I immediately thought about the Bears. And so when we come back, when we come forward, we'll talk about what it is to rah-rah for a team who never wins.
We're all in agreement when it comes to the Packers. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to KBLA Talk 1580. More on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and Fat Meat Fridays with Gina Townsend when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
In California, all workers have rights, no matter their immigration status. If you or a family member were detained by federal immigration authorities and did not receive your final paycheck, contact the Labor Commissioner's office. You can file a claim even if you left California or the U.S. Call 833-526-4636 from the U.S. or outside the country 001-833-526-4636. Document wage theft and report it to the Labor Commissioner's office.
Did you know that streaming music, ebooks, audiobooks, movies, and more is available for free from the Los Angeles Public Library? With your library card, you can access the latest music and movies, audiobooks and ebooks, graphic novels, comic books, magazines, and more. If you don't have a library card and live in the city of Los Angeles, you can get a digital card online for free. Check it out at lapl.org/emedia. That's lapl.org/emedia.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
This holiday season, KBLA Talk 1580 wishes you and yours joy, peace, and prosperity. As we celebrate with family and friends, we're already looking forward to an exciting first quarter, packed with must-attend events to kick off the new year just right. In January, join us for our inaugural Brotherhood Brunch, bringing together community leaders, change makers, and everyday people for inspiration and connection. February means it's time for our signature Black History Month luncheon, a powerful celebration you won't want to miss. And in March, Women's History Month, we're once again hosting our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium and Luncheon, addressing the issues that matter most inside our community. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, happy holidays. Stay tuned for more details on these incredible upcoming events. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice, your community, your power.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk. It's that new Fridays.
Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me.
It's the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We've been talking about the founding fathers and some of the deep challenges that they must have confronted, including but not limited to hypocrisy. Gina?
Yeah. So during the break and before we left, I was questioning whether we can muster up. I want to know if we as a Black community, I want to know if generations, Z, millennials can muster up enough for America to fight for her. You can say, well, this wasn't ours to begin with, but the gift of the amendment process, which only America has now, for us to be able to move forward and address the things in our society that we need to address. 13, 14, and 15. Those amendments apply to Black people. They apply to slavery. They apply to our freedom. And so I want to know, because this belongs to me. This thing belongs to me, and I want to know if everybody's going to fight it. Not maybe I should think about packing up like some of my friends have. But we have these examples, these nuggets in Thomas Paine and Benjamin Franklin, even the Adams family, who never owned slaves, who had to be fighting that fight.
Gina, it took one amendment to the Constitution almost 200 years to pass. And that amendment, I believe, was regarding congressional pay raises. I can't blame the American people for saying, we're not adding that to the Constitution. Hey, I get it. Yeah. But then there are other amendments to the Constitution that took only 100 days. Others have taken 10 months to add to the Constitution. What do those amendments have in common? It requires the American people to be in agreement. Red and blue, black and white, brown, Native American, every single American has to be nearing agreement in order to separate the old America, whatever it is, from the new America that we desire. It is a high hurdle to overcome. 2/3 of the Congress and 3/4 of the states isn't just about filing an amendment. Consistent with what we said in the previous segments of the show, amendments to the Constitution have to be written on the hearts of the American people. They have to be written on the hearts of the American people all at the same time in order to have a congressional majority of 2/3. And then 3/4 of the state legislatures all have to agree that it's important and that it must happen at the same time. And that's how you expedite an amendment to the Constitution. And I find it somewhat amazing that healthcare, education, right to decent, safe, and affordable housing, the right to vote are still amendments to the Constitution that have escaped our democracy. And today, more than ever, our democracy is in trouble. Gina, I think you have a clip.
Well, before we go there, we came forward, we talked about the fact that everybody who's fighting in a war is not there for the same reason. You might be in a bunker with somebody who doesn't believe the same thing that you believe, but you're fighting for the same thing. And then we brought up football, America's pastime, and why we still cheer for our teams. I might still cheer for the Bears because I remember the 85, Super Bowl shuffle, and I'm loyal to that. And this is but I might, if I'm in another state, I might like the Bears for another reason, or I might like Philadelphia for another reason. I don't live in Philadelphia, but when part of our team went there, our quarterback went there, some of me went there. And so people do fight for things for different reasons, but can we all get on the same page? Is it necessary for us to all have the same reason? No.
When the coach of the 85 Bears began trading his Super Bowl team because he didn't want to pay them, I felt good about the 84 Bears when they were doing the Bear Shuffle, but I don't feel good about it when the coach decided he didn't want to pay Wilbur Marshall. He didn't want to pay certain key players that could have created a dynasty in the city of Chicago. And then the owners didn't want to invest any more money in players in the Bears. And so I haven't returned essentially to the Bears since 1985.
Oh, that's problematic.
So it may be.
But what I'm getting, that's exactly what I'm getting to. Can you still wrap your head around democracy and the founding tenets? If we look at these men studied this thing about on earth as it is in heaven, in earth as it is in heaven. Can we still get our minds around the idea of democracy, even though it has fallen short, even though it has been hypocritical, it has been mean and evil at some times, and it is that now. So do we still have it in us to still cheer for it and still fight for it? That's what I'm getting to, because we know that this is an age-old argument that continues from the Constitutional Convention.
I would hope that we would, as Americans, believe that all Americans deserve the fundamental right to vote, that the federal government should not tamper with it. Federal courts should not be able to tamper with it. State legislatures should not be able to tamper with it. A president of the United States should not be able to tamper with it. It ought to be added to the Constitution of the United States. It sounds like a simple thing, but it's not there. We have a state right to vote in the United States, and that state's right to vote means that every state has a different system. And we can't reach agreement that we live in a democracy where the supreme power, demos, people, kratos, rule, democracy, rule, comes from the people. And therefore, we need to take something from the federal government, take something from the state governments, and give it back to the people. And for me right now, that is the fundamental right to vote. If we can have a TSA that won't let a bottle of water on a plane across the country, we can build one system with one set of standards from sea to shining sea, where everyone walks in and out of a polling place and feels secure about casting their franchise. Gina?
Let's go to the clip.
Franklin had started to acquire some wealth. Like many other colonial Pennsylvanians, he held a number of enslaved people, up to 5 or 6 in his home, including a married couple, Peter and Jemima. He was committed to slave labor. He used it alongside of his business ventures in order to gain more wealth.
At the time, nearly 1/10 of Philadelphia's residents were enslaved, toiling in homes and businesses.
We tend to associate slavery with plantation labor in the South, but there were slaves all up and down the eastern seaboard, every one of the 13 colonies. And they did everything. They served as domestic servants, they served as cooks, They served as nursemaids, they served as dock workers, they served as hired hands. The advantage was that Africans couldn't leave. Indentured servants filled out their time. Africans you had for life.
Many of Franklin's Quaker friends considered slavery a sin that threatened to corrode the moral fiber of the community at large. Franklin published some of their anti-slavery tracts, though he intentionally kept his own name as printer off the title page.
Franklin lived at a moment in which slavery was being challenged pretty constantly in Philadelphia. He was very aware that this was happening, yet he still made the decision to hold on to his men and women who were enslaved. He made a choice.
Hi, this is Ken Burns. I hope you enjoyed that excerpt.
Pleasing, like, well, everybody else is doing this, and I don't want to stand out from the crowd. I think that's what we're finding right now. I know people who don't sign on for what's going on right now in our government, where people are losing their rights and losing their jobs and not being considered for jobs, and education isn't equal still. But they still haven't spoken up. And I think we have to be able to provide people with a place to put their left foot and their right foot going forward.
If I can quote Langston Hughes to sum up this moment, sum up this segment. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Fat Meat Fridays with Gina Towns, our executive director. What a wonderful segment, G.
Yes, it was.
I appreciate you. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Fat Meat Fridays on Jesse Jackson Jr.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says there's still a chance for compromise on Chicago's 2026 budget, but most alders say it's too late and are moving ahead with their own plan.
We would like to see the homework they've done to come up with these numbers and projections today, given that we have a ticking clock and a deadline to meet.
The council met again Thursday with no resolution. Court filings show federal prosecutors unsuccessfully trying to add a third felony charge against Black New York Attorney General Letitia James. The effort failed to secure a new indictment, marking the second time prosecutors have fallen short after her earlier case was dismissed. And Tyra Banks is being sued for $2.8 million over an alleged lease breach tied to a planned ice cream shop in Washington, D.C. Her company says it backed out after not getting full access to the space and has filed a motion to dismiss. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.